Okay, so now it's time to look at the Brisbane Broncos and their season preview. Last season was a massive drop off from where they were the season before. They are the third team in a row after losing a grand final against Penrith to miss the top eight. So you've got Souths, Parramatta, and Brisbane all lost the grand final against Penrith. Following season, they miss the top eight. You can see a trend here. And both Parramatta and Souths were right at the bottom of the table at the end of last season, separated by points differential. Brisbane weren't much better. Now, the Brisbane Broncos, it was a terrible fall off. It cost Kevy Walters his job, and we can all debate whether Kevy Walters was the right guy to be installed as head coach to replace Anthony Seibold back in 2021 in the first place. Admittedly, in that entire time, they made the top eight once, and that was 2 years ago when they made the grand final. Last year, they missed out. Their season was misfiring from the start. There were moments where they were really good, and there were moments where they were really, really bad, and they just fell apart, basically. Completely fell apart. Now, they do have a good, young, talented core of players. I put that down as a pro. Going into this season, they have a good core that they've kept together, that have come through together, which is, I think, important. They've got a good core of players. Plus, they've signed Ben Hunt, which adds some experience. Now, Ben Hunt, people are saying, well, his age, he's right at the end of his career, is this the right contract to give out? But they were pushed into a situation, and I'll get to why later. Now, Micheal Maguire is the new coach. And there were question marks under Kevy Walters about certain players getting away with too much off the field, player culture, team culture, squad culture, too many old boys around the club. Micheal Maguire has got no connection to Brisbane at all. Obviously, people will look at Micheal Maguire and his history coaching, and especially look at the West Tigers and his failures at the West Tigers. Was that solely on Micheal Maguire, or was it on the whole club as a whole, recruitment, personnel, support from the board? Name what you will. But you look what he did with New South Wales last year in Origin, turning that series around. They lose the first game because of Suolii's send-off. They win games 2 and 3, and Mitch Moses has the best game of potentially his career in game 3. Wins the series. And Micheal Maguire, people are going nuts. People were slagging off Micheal Maguire and criticising their appointment. Then they win the series and stop Queensland potentially dominating again. They arrest the slide that was happening, under Freddie Fittler. But then the Brisbane job comes available. Kevin Walters is sacked, a bit surprisingly in some quarters. He's sacked. Micheal Maguire is appointed very, very quickly. People are surprised. And then the Ezra Mam situation blows up, which links into the Ben Hunt signing and the culture around the club. Yes, they've got a great young leadership core, very young, talented squad, but culture and how they cope under pressure. Ben Hunt is a solid veteran player that I think will add some leadership and some guidance to some of these younger players. He was very critical of the culture at the Dragons with some of the players who misbehaved there, and didn't look fondly upon some of his teammates misbehaving. I think Ben Hunt is a very, very good player. He obviously wanted to move back to Queensland for family reasons. He wanted out of the Dragons. They granted his request, eventually releasing him, admittedly a year after he initially requested leave. This time last year we were having the same debate. Ezra Mam is suspended to start the season. I think Ezra Mam is lucky not to be in prison, personally. But there's also questions about Reece Walsh and how much that their antics and the lack of discipline has impacted the culture at the club, which has impacted the on-field performances at the club. Because when things get tough, they fall apart. Adam Reynolds, while he's a great player, and he's worked with Micheal Maguire, again, crucial, I think. Having that player-coach connection from a winning premiership team, admittedly 11 years ago, but they still have that coach-player connection, which I think could be crucial into getting the message across to these young talented players. Micheal Maguire is a culture guy. He will expect hard work from his players, but he'll also go into bat for his players. He won't throw the players under the bus in press conferences. He will stick up for his players' well-being, welfare, but he expects good, solid culture. He's not one for the boozing culture. He's not one for the party culture, which is where Ezra Mam and Reece Walsh need to butt their ideas up, because there's been a lot of speculation about the fact of the player culture being very relaxed and very matey, old boy kind of culture under the previous coach, under Kevy Walters. So the culture is going to be make or break. And Micheal Maguire may win the dressing room over. He could lose the dressing room. And I don't think Brisbane is going to give Micheal Maguire a lot of time to fix this. I really don't. They didn't give Seabold a lot of time. When things went wrong with Seabold, he was gone. Kevin Walters got a little bit more leeway because he was a club legend. Micheal Maguire, much like Anthony Seabold, is an outsider coming in, is not going to have the same amount of arm's length approach to things. If things don't start working out quickly, he could be on the chopping block. It's going to be interesting if the players buy into the culture. There's a lot of players. There was clearly a divided dressing room last season. There was clearly frustration last season. Micheal Maguire will expect unity and everyone to buy in on fitness, on culture, on discipline. But if the players do that, he will run through brick walls for them. He is a player's coach, but he's a strict disciplinarian. And if Ezra Mam and Reece Walsh, for example, I'm choosing them as the examples, continue to have lapses in discipline, that could again disrupt the team going forward. How they're going to do without Ezra Mam is going to be interesting. There's no doubt he's a talented player. Will Ben Hunt slot in the Ezra Mam position alongside Adam Reynolds seamlessly, or will there be a little bit of an imbalance there with two really veteran players who play the game differently? And Adam Reynolds, can he stay fit enough for long enough this season to contribute positively to the team? There's also question marks about the leadership a little bit, and is too much pressure being put on some of these young players to be senior leaders too soon? So we shall see what happens. They've got a good solid pack. They've got some good talented outside backs. But the spine with Ezra Mam out, Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds, Reece Walsh, it's going to be interesting to see how this spine works together and how they buy into the Micheal Maguire system. Will they be as bad as they were last season? Time will tell. Will they be wooden spoonists? No. Will they make the top 8? We don't know. The players have got to buck their ideas up. They've been too casual for too long. They've been allowed to get away with some bad behaviours under Kevin Walters because of the old boy culture. Micheal Maguire is a completely different coach. And he's a premiership winning coach, which Kevin Walters is not. So there's a difference there. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the Brisbane Broncos in the comments section below. Where do you think they finished? Do you think Micheal Maguire is the right guy to turn things around? Considering there are those on social media and in the mainstream media who've criticised this appointment, there are those who've praised the appointment. I'm one of those who thinks this is a good appointment and it could really sort out the culture issues within that club, which have clearly been festering for some time, in my opinion, for some time. But from me for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.